Update: I messed up by accidentally becoming my client's wife's boyfriend. Original post. For context, I'm a divorce attorney. I've been practicing for about 8 years now, mostly family law stuff. Generally pretty routine work. People want to untangle their lives. I help them do it legally. Everyone moves on. Let's flash back to last March. I took on what seemed like a straightforward dissolution case. Client I'll call Dave, nice enough guy, been separated from his wife for over a year, just wanted to make it official. Nothing complicated, decent retainer, figured we'd have it wrapped up in a few months. Dave seemed reasonable, not one of those vindictive types trying to burn everything down out of spite. Around the same time, I'd been seeing this woman Sarah for a couple of months. Met her at a coffee shop near my office, really hit it off. She mentioned going through a divorce, but I didn't pry. Not exactly first date conversation, you know? She had a different last name from what was in my client files, so when I ran my conflict checks, nothing flagged. Everything was going great with Sarah. Really great, actually. We were taking things slow, but it was heading in a good direction. Until we scheduled the first four-way settlement meeting. I walk into the conference room with Dave, chatting about keeping things amicable, and there's Sarah, sitting across the table with her attorney. I literally just stopped mid-sentence. My briefcase slipped right out of my hands and hit the floor with this loud thud. Sarah went completely white. Dave looked back and forth between us for what felt like an eternity, and I could see the exact moment it clicked for him. "Are you freaking serious right now?" he says. Not shouting, but definitely not pleased. Sarah started tearing up. Her lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. I'm standing there feeling like the biggest moron in legal history. Had to immediately excuse myself with Dave. Guy was understandably pissed. Started grilling me. How long had this been going on? Did I know who she was? Was this some kind of setup to screw him over? I'm trying to explain that I'd been dating his wife for a couple of months without having any clue who she was. He didn't buy it at first. What kind of lawyer doesn't ask basic questions? He keeps saying. I had to pull out my intake notes to prove the name thing, show him how the conflict check works, basically convince an angry client that I'm incompetent rather than malicious. It took about 20 minutes before he finally believed it was just spectacularly bad luck. Even then, he's shaking his head, muttering about how messed up this whole situation is. I explained I'd have to withdraw from his case and help him find new counsel. There's no getting around it. I've got a personal relationship with the opposing party, which makes it impossible for me to represent him properly. By the end, he'd calmed down enough to say, "This is the weirdest goddamn thing that's ever happened to me." He still wasn't happy about starting over with a new lawyer, but he understood why it had to happen. The paperwork was a nightmare. Had to file a motion to withdraw since we were already in litigation, transfer all his files, deal with refunding unused fees. Sarah and I didn't speak for 2 weeks after that meeting. We were both mortified. Her attorney spent forever trying to convince himself this wasn't some elaborate scheme. Even though nobody intended for this to happen, it was still my screw-up. I should have had better procedures to catch conflicts like this. Doesn't matter that it was an accident. You mess up the conflict check, you deal with the consequences. Dave texted me a few weeks later, but it wasn't friendly. More like, hope you realize this completely ruined my timeline. Can't say I blame him. And just to add insult to injury, my malpractice insurance premium went up when I had to report the conflict. Now for the top comments before reading the update. I mean, you did waste a lot of his money on whatever time you spent that the new lawyer would have to redo. Did you and Sarah at least continue dating afterward? Sarah used another name socially that Dave had not disclosed. Her file had her legal name. Our check didn't catch it, and I didn't connect the dots. Her and I's relationship was less emotionally involved, to keep it brief. I've been overworked and dealing with more than a full caseload. Yes, I could have done better at preventing this from happening. This was a major screw-up. On her end, I don't think she knew either, based on her reaction as well as her being a workaholic too. Pretty much all communication had been directly between me and her counsel. No, she and I did not continue seeing each other, for obvious reasons. Can you explain how you could have done better to keep this from happening? The only thing I could think of is that you would have asked her outright if your client was the man she was currently divorcing when she let you know about it. But that would just be weird. and not something anyone would think to ask except as a joke. And that is assuming that any of your clients disclosed that to you, which was not the case here. Now for the update. So it's been about 7 months since the conference room incident, and people have been asking what happened. Short answer, it's been a mess. About 3 weeks after I withdrew from Dave's case, I got called into a meeting with the senior partners. 3 partners, our firm's general counsel, and a rep from our malpractice carrier on a video call. The managing partner slides a folder across the table. Opposing counsel reported a conflict of interest issue to the state bar under Rule 8.3. We've been notified of a disciplinary inquiry. Crap. Dave's new attorney filed the report. They don't get to decide what happens. They just report potential violations and the bar takes it from there. I have to explain everything. How I met Sarah, how we'd been casually dating for a couple of months, how she used a different name socially, how my conflict check on her legal name didn't flag anything because I never connected the dots. The general counsel is taking notes. Walk me through your conflict check process. I explain the intake procedures, how the system works, how Sarah's legal surname didn't match what she'd told me. It sounds worse when I say it out loud. This is a clear Model Rule 1.7 A2 issue, material limitation conflict, the general counsel says. You are correct to withdraw under Rule 1.16, but we need to understand how this wasn't caught earlier. The malpractice carrier rep unmutes. We'll need to document this as a circumstance that could lead to a claim. It'll be noted when your policy comes up for renewal. Great. The firm mandates that I complete an 8-hour CLE on conflicts of interest before taking any new client intakes. They've already registered me for a seminar that Saturday. 8 a.m., of course. I show up at a hotel conference room with about 20 other attorneys. One of the instructors is Patricia, a divorce attorney I've opposed a few times. She definitely knows why I'm there based on the look she gave me. Most of the morning is standard material, rules, case law, procedures. Then we get to case studies, and Patricia brings up In re Johnson, a 2019 disciplinary matter. Attorney representing a divorced client starts dating someone, turns out to be the opposing party, discovers it at a settlement conference. Same exact situation as mine from 6 years ago in a different state, and I wanted to sink through the floor. At lunch, another attorney mentions he heard about something similar happening at a firm in town recently. He doesn't know it's me, but clearly the story's getting around. I finish the seminar, pass the exam, bring the certificate back to the firm. A few weeks later, the bar sends a letter. The inquiry is closed with a private caution, basically a warning that stays in their files but isn't public discipline. Could have been worse. My malpractice premium went up about 15% when it renewed in September. The carrier cited the reported disciplinary circumstance in the renewal letter. The firm implemented some new procedures for me specifically. For the next 6 months, I have to get conflicts pre-cleared by the general counsel before taking on any new client. They also added mandatory alias or nickname fields to our intake forms and conflict check system. The worst part isn't the official stuff though, it's that people know. Not everyone, but enough. I've been called the coffee shop lawyer twice at bar events. Last month, opposing counsel asked if I'd met the other party before, with this look on her face. The story's definitely circulating. Some versions have me engaged to Sarah. One has me not finding out until trial. It's becoming one of those cautionary tales people tell each other. Haven't dated anyone since March. Deleted the apps. Before I did, I matched with someone who mentioned her divorce, and I immediately asked who her lawyer was. She unmatched pretty quick. Can't really blame her. Dave, if you see this, I'm sorry, man. I really didn't know. I hope things worked out okay for you. And Sarah, hope you're doing well. Everyone else, just ask the basic questions. Run proper conflict checks. Verify AKAs. It's not worth it. I've been practicing over 10 years. You're not incompetent, and based on Dave's text to you, I think it's a good thing you had to withdraw. Kinda makes sense Sarah's divorcing him because he sounds like an a-hole. So yeah, incompetent? Nah, you're a good lawyer. Embarrassed? Yeah, this one's not gonna be funny for a while. I don't fault Dave at all. I was sleeping with his wife while representing him. There's no version of that where I'm the victim. It doesn't matter that I didn't know who she was at first. By the time I figured it out, the damage was already done. He had real things riding on that case: money, time, his business, and my withdrawal blew up his timeline. I can say it wasn't intentional, but that doesn't mean it didn't wreck him. He had every right to hate me for it. Thanks for the update. Honestly, speaking from my non-lawyer brain, I think you really drew the crappiest hand. I don't think it's your fault, and that you took the right steps when you found out. I hope this will turn into a funny story soon. I was already rooting for you after your first post. I don't think this says anything about your skills as a lawyer. What was OP even supposed to do differently? Couldn't this happen to any lawyer that's actively dating? Kind of reminds me of an old statutory rape case from like a decade ago that involved a gamer dude over the age of 18 and a teenage girl under the age of 18. Paraphrases from memory because I can't find the relevant case. Dude meets girl, literally at a bar. Dude chats with girl, and both of their IDs are checked by the bartender. Both are served drinks. Accounts confirm that dude explicitly asked the girl for her age and got information consistent with it. If my memory serves, they dated short-term. He even met her mom, and she confirmed her age as being old enough to be at a bar and drink. At some point, someone reports it, and he gets arrested and goes to jail. I'm pretty sure the girl and her mom even testified on his behalf. The heck are you supposed to do? Next story. HR are there to protect the company, not their employees. I've been struggling with my mental health for many years. Up until a few months ago, I was still able to keep up at work, even through extreme client pressure. Then I started begging for help because I was struggling a lot. They promised to move me to a different team with less pressure, but kept moving the goalposts, telling me they couldn't find a replacement due to client requirements. Early this morning, they ambushed me with a meeting with our HR director to give me two options. Either I get fired after a disciplinary hearing or go on disability. I've been begging for disability for months, so naturally I was really happy to go with option 2, as I have good income insurance through the company. Then the HR head bitch demanded that I get the doctor's paperwork done today. I'd already been in contact with a doctor, and she couldn't get it done because she just returned from leave and had a huge backlog. The HR bitch demanded that I go to the doctor's office to get it done today. I was feeling utterly malicious when I complied, even though it meant a 2-hour drive with the distance and traffic. I got there and managed to chat to my doctor for 2 minutes in between appointments, and she requested permission to be rude to the HR bitch, and I told her to go for it. I don't know what she said in that email, but the HR bitch was suddenly very reasonable. Now I have a full week to get the paperwork done. I'm happy. The HR bitch is the wife of the CEO, and the company's about to take a huge hit because the client has found alternatives. So it's going to hugely hit their bank accounts. It gives me a very happy fuzzy feeling. I gave years of loyal service, and they're going to get their karma very soon, even if my malicious compliance is a drop in the bucket. Once you get disability, you should also look into whether you can double dip and file a suit for constructive dismissal. If it was known to HR that you were having mental health issues, and they nonetheless proceeded to increase your workload and attendance stress levels despite knowing this. The way the company handles constructive dismissal lawsuits is very scary. They'd rather spend $2 million or even more on lawyers than pay out a settlement of $1 million. It would cost me too much, both financially and mentally. Not to mention that I actually can't do the work anymore due to my disability. The least amount of stress has me in a tailspin. Sometimes HR protecting the company is achieved by HR protecting the employee. This is when a manager has broken the law, and HR knows that siding with the employee to avoid a damaging lawsuit is the best option. A manager in the wrong won't admit they are in the wrong until HR makes them do it. Sometimes. I hope Apple HR reads this comment, because they do nothing but gaslight and outright lie to their employees. One HR rep earned a reputation for being utterly worthless across a whole call center department. CW, I am looking at you. She was actually a deterrent to reps filing HR cases. They tell my boss and don't help protect me? No thanks. Actual quote. I personally gave them airtight proof of retaliation and harassment. She downplayed it to my face. I went back and got even more flagrant proof of retaliation and harassment, and they responded with gaslighting. All of that abuse, and the outcome was, it got the senior area manager promoted and drove away a crapload of talented, hardworking people. Last story. Supervisor says phones are all that matter. Okay then. So this actually happened a few months ago at my job. Long story short, a coworker got promoted to a new supervisor position for all the wrong reasons. She's besties with the boss and gives him relationship advice on the side. Our team handles many types of incoming requests, phone calls, emails, tickets, and even printer jobs that get printed out automatically. We have a really chill system that actually works. Everyone helps where needed, and the manager trusts us to get the work done. Nobody tracks individual stats or micromanages. We just get everything handled and keep things running smoothly, and it's been that way in this department for probably 30 years now. Then my new supervisor comes along and, I guess, decides she wants to tighten things up or increase accountability or something. Her big idea? From now on, I'll be tracking phone calls for performance metrics. Make sure everyone's doing their job and no one's slacking. So of course we asked, what about tickets and emails? Those take most of the time. She says, well, there's no way to measure those right now, so we can't really track that. Okay. So, of course, everyone does exactly what she asked. Phone rings, answer it immediately. If we're working on an email and a phone call comes in, put it on pause and answer the call. Working on a ticket? Pause, gotta answer a call. Naturally, emails start piling up in the shared mailbox. Tickets sit untouched in the internal portal, which management still doesn't know how to run reports on, and the printer starts piling up paper in front of it. After a couple of days, people from other departments, people from our satellite offices, and even some of our external customers start emailing and calling, asking if we're backed up because nobody's responding to tickets or emails. One guy even came down in person to ask why no one had reached out to him about the email he sent in. When asked what was going on, we just repeated what the supervisor told us. Focus on the phone since that's what matters. A few days later, I saw the supervisor get called into a meeting with the boss. When she comes out, she's clearly annoyed and sends out a message on Teams saying, please remember that all work types are important, not just phone calls. And just like that, the performance tracking policy quietly vanished. We're back to doing all the work again, the same way we've been doing it successfully for years. Edit. It seems a lot of people do not understand workflow. Before, if a ticket or email came in, you'd take yourself off the phone queue to work it. But now, why am I going to take myself off the phone queue to work a ticket if it'll look like I'm doing no work? Coworker got promoted to a new supervisor position for all the wrong reasons. She's besties with the boss and gives him relationship advice on the side. I've been reading this exact same sentence in at least 5 posts in the last 10 days. Well, 2 of those were probably me because I posted other stories about the same supervisor. Sadly, it happens. I spent 5 months as acting lead in my department after they marched the former lead out. Instead of promoting me to the position, they put the laziest person on the crew there. New lead then tried to get me fired, but failed. Hope they didn't expect you to train the new person. After all, if you're not qualified to be the lead on a permanent basis, surely you're not qualified to train the person who is. Thankfully, no. I stepped out from behind the desk, went back to doing my old job, and let them flounder. Except for him trying to fire me, it was not all that bad. I was still doing my old job and working as acting lead. The guy who also got the position, and this is why we think he got it, took it for only $1 more an hour than I currently make. The other leads all make $5 more an hour. He was willing to take a cut in pay to get that position. And he still gets phone calls when not on property from people asking him questions. So I make $1 less and none of the headaches.